But her agent ended up standing her up. The seller was in the yard and she rolled down the window. Do you know a good realtor? And she called me and she said, well, your name's Angie. You can't be all bad, because her name was Angie.
Welcome to the Fear Forward CEO, the podcast for business owners who are ready to build trust, generate referrals, and scale with smart systems and AI. I'm Tonya Gossage, and each week we talk leadership, growth, relationships, visibility, and practical strategies that move forward with confidence. Let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome back to the Fear Forward CEO podcast. I'm Tonya Gossage, and today we have another interview guest. I'm especially excited about this one because we're going to get very specific about a topic that I love to talk about, and that's referrals. Not as a concept, not as a buzzword, but real growth strategies and real business owners, or what real business owners have used to build what I call real revenue. My guest today has done exactly that. She's built revenue from referrals. She spent nearly 2 decades standing in front of a classroom, shaping young minds as an 8th grade English teacher. She was very good at it too. She's poured herself into it. And then at age 50 years old, in the middle of one of the hardest years of her life, she walked away from everything that she knew and she started over. She moved back to Little Rock, Arkansas, started a brand new career in real estate, and built her practice from the ground up on one single belief: that the relationship is the point. We talk about that a lot here in the podcast. And that transaction is just one moment within it. Today, she's an executive broker at Keller Realty, operating under the Campbell Group AR, which stands for Arkansas. That's her brand, and her business runs almost entirely on referrals. Can't wait to get into that. Not because she has the most yard signs or the biggest social media following, but because people trust her enough to give her name to the people that they love the most. She's warm without being soft. She's professional without being cold. And she carries a personal North Star into every single client relationship. Because you knew me, you're better, is one of the things that she loves to say, and I absolutely agree with that. She is the kind of thing, or that's the kind of thing that takes courage to live up to, and that's exactly why she belongs on the show today. Angie Campbell, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. And yes, I love talking about referrals. That's, like you said, that's what my business is built on. So that's just so important to me.
Well, we're going to have a great time talking about referrals, which, I always say referrals is the new SEO and relationships is the new SEO. So we'll talk quite a bit about that. So Angie, I've known you going back since September of 2025. It's not been that long, but ever since then, I've gotten to know a lot about you, your business, and how you give and receive referrals through BNI. So we'll talk a lot about BNI today through the podcast, but tell us a little bit about your business and about how referrals have played quite a bit into your business growth.
Yep. So just to back up, I mean, you mentioned that I was a teacher for almost 20 years. I actually taught everything from 6th through 12th grade at some point. The last 9 years was strictly 8th grade. But I did not have a background in sales. And so we were moving back to Little Rock in 2014. And like you said, I had just turned 50 that year. And I thought, I am ready for a new adventure. And so I just decided I've got to look for a new job anyway since we're moving back. If I'm ever going to do it, I'm going to have to do it now, because I knew I'm a very loyal type person. If I came back here, took a job, I would feel bad to leave. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it now. And so I just made the decision to just try a new adventure, went to real estate school. And then all of a sudden it's like, but I don't have any clients. What am I going to do? And so I started hearing, at that time, this was 12 years ago, I started hearing a lot about making cold calls, calling expired listings, calling for sale by owners, that sort of thing. And that just terrified me, number one. Not having a background in sales, I'm like, well, what do I even say? And then reading the scripts. Yes, I mean, people can learn the scripts and it becomes more natural. And I know that all those things actually do work. It's just a different method. But it just did not fit who I am. And so I knew immediately this, okay, if I can't find another way to find business, I'm in trouble. This is not going to work. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to try something different. And I did find some other people, some other agents who were already successful who built their business on referrals and repeat business. And I began to try to learn from them. I'm huge on education, not just because I was a teacher, but that's just important to me. I did not want to learn by making just mistake after mistake. I wanted to learn from others, learn from their mistakes actually, and be able to apply those principles that now these people have already walked this road ahead of me and try to repeat some of that. And so I just began actually initially because I didn't have any clients. And while we had lived here previously, we had lived here 12 years, moved away for almost 9, and then we were coming back. So I knew some people, but it had been 9 years since I'd seen most people. So I couldn't very well just call them up and expect them to do business with me. I'm brand new at this career. So anyway, so I started out by having open houses because I could actually meet people, because that's the one thing I have is I'm good with people. I don't have any trouble having conversations. And so the great thing about open houses was they were coming to me. I wasn't having to go bother them or cold call these people. They were coming to me interested in this house I'm sitting in. And so it became just really easy to just laugh and connect. And, you know, I remember one time a guy coming in, he had on a Georgia Bulldogs shirt, and I graduated from Clemson. And so Georgia and Clemson, you know, at times have been rivals. And so it just immediately gave me just a little thing to kind of tease him about, connect with. And so just being able to start looking for ways to connect with people. I even did a lot of door knocking, which surprisingly, door knocking didn't scare me as much as cold calling. I don't know why, but I think it's the in-person thing. It's just easier for me than listening to a voice on the other end. And so I would basically, and it was a very non-threatening kind of door knocking. All I was really doing was inviting them to my open house. So I would have the open house on Sunday. I would door knock the day before, all the houses around the house I was going to be holding open, and just basically say, do you want to pick your neighbor? Why don't you come to my open house or invite somebody? And so that's how I got started. But I immediately recognized that the relationship piece is going to be key for my business. If I can't do it this way, this career is not going to work for me. And so that's kind of how I started.
The piece I really love about what you just said is because a lot of people would be scared to death to knock on a door because they would look at that like a cold call, but you didn't. And so you took that opportunity to turn that whole thing around and say, this, in your mind, this is not cold calling, I'm inviting.
Exactly.
And
it's
so
almost like inviting somebody to a party. It's just, that's not a hard ask versus, hey, why do you think your house didn't sell? Do you hire me as your agent? That feels a lot more like you're selling something. And I don't consider myself really a salesperson, so to speak. I'm just a relationship person who happens to sell real estate and likes to help people.
Yeah. And I love that because I talk to clients all the time about if you can take a situation and reframe that, almost tell your mind it's totally something else to help you get through it. That works a whole lot differently than thinking of something negatively. If you can just turn that thing around.
It's all about mindset.
Yes, and you did that. So I love that. Another thing you did was you put yourself in the right rooms. And then you were looking for people that you could have a conversation with, something that you could relate to people, the shirt, you know, the ball teams, and be able to strike up the right conversations. That is so great. I have this framework that's called Lord, you know, looking for somebody for, you know, location, occupation, recreation, and dream. And so you can have a conversation around all of those things that helps break the ice with people, you know, and then you can find out so much about someone. If you're scared to have a conversation, just talk about one or all of those things and it will help you to break the ice with someone. So I love that.
'Cause people actually love to talk about themselves. So
They
if you
do.
can ask about their family or about what they do, or so many times I'd have a young couple come in, they just got married. So I started asking them, where'd you go on your honeymoon? And just
Yes.
showing interest in the, you know, and I genuinely was interested. It really wasn't a fake kind of thing. And so just doing that, and I actually kind of came up with a strategy. I heard another agent talk about this, and I thought, you know, I love that strategy. Is I would try to pick a price point. So let's just say 300 to 400,000, if that was my price point. And so for multiple weeks in a row, I would hold houses open in that same price point in the same area. So let's say if it was West Little Rock between 300 and 400. Well, what started happening is I would see the same people. And so they'd come in the first week. The first week I'm a stranger. Well, then the next week they come to a different house, and now I'm at that house, same people, and they're like, oh, I remember you from last week. Well, by the third time, they feel like they know me, and I feel like I'm getting to know them, and you can just see how much more relaxed they were, how much more open. And I would try to make a little joke and say, well, see there, we're just destined to work together. It's just meant to be. That's why you keep running into me. And I can't tell you how many people that really just helped me to connect with people, because it really is just all about connecting.
It really is. That's wonderful. So that is a perfect lead-in to the next question that I wanted to ask you. So what percentage of your business do you think today comes from people like that, whether it's a referral or a warm introduction? Because that really is like a warm introduction. You've seen them multiple times. How many times does that lead into?
Well, really, about now, because I don't do as many open houses now, COVID changed a lot of things. It changed the door knocking piece. I would not be as comfortable door knocking today as I was back then. And so a lot of that changed. But I would say now about 95% of my business is either past clients, repeating, or referrals. And so it's someone early on told me that it takes about 3 to 4 years for it to start getting easier. Those first few years, you're just having to grind because it's just hard. I mean, it just is. I mean, you know, people that think, well, they say about 80% of people who get licensed in real estate are out of it within 2 years, because they come in thinking, oh, everybody that knows me is going to use me, but that's not true, because almost everybody knows 10 agents easily, and probably has someone in their family or a friend that does it. And so it's not nearly as easy as what people think. And so they get discouraged and just quit. And so somebody just told me, you know what? The first few years, you're just going to have to grind, and it's going to suck, and you just have to embrace the suck, which I know sounds kind of crass, but I sort of took on that motto that, yes, you just embrace the suck and you keep moving, because it just is part of it, and you put in your time, and then eventually 3 to 4 years down the road, it gets easier. And that's exactly the way it played out. And so I just didn't let myself give up, and I thought, okay, I'm in now. This has got to work for me, so we're just going to embrace this and move forward.
Yeah, so let's talk about, you mentioned COVID, how COVID kind of changed things. You know, people were staying home, not getting out as much, those types of things. What part of COVID kind of changed the way people do business today, specifically in your industry?
Well, it was very interesting because, of course, when COVID first hit, March 2020, and they're telling everybody stay home for 2 weeks. And so I did that. I stayed home for 2 weeks, but at the end of the 2 weeks, I'm starting to get calls, people wanting to see houses. And I'm like, well, I can't just sit at home. I can't show them a house from here. I've got to go. And
Right.
so literally, I probably stayed home for about 2 weeks, and that was it. I was on full speed, and probably the next 2 years were the busiest I've ever been.
Wow.
And just showing houses, and just real estate just boomed during that time,
I
actually.
remember it, yeah.
I think it's because so many people were home. Maybe people that used to go into an office were now being allowed to work from home. And so people would look around and think, well, if I'm going to have to work from here, I want something I like better. And so many people chose to move during that time and be in a home that they loved even more. And so it actually benefited my business. Now, I know that wasn't the case with everybody, but kind of the way it's done, as far as, like I said, door knocking, that certainly did not work during COVID. You did not go to someone's door. You'd have been all masked up and, the whole thing, and people wouldn't have wanted to open the door. So that would not have worked.
Yeah. Wow. So let's go back to, well, let me ask you, back then, before I go to this next one, back then, was there a lot of referrals taking place even during that time frame, the COVID period? Because I remember it was a busy, chaotic time.
Yes, it was. The thing that was the hardest is just, as soon as a house would list, it didn't even have to be that great of a house. It would just have, literally 10 offers, like in hours.
Yeah.
And so it became such a stressful, okay, this house listed. If you want to see the house, we have to go now. We have to book today. We can't wait till tomorrow. We can't wait till this weekend. You didn't even have open houses. There was no time to have an open house.
Wow.
Because the house would be sold, or already not sold totally, but under a contract before the weekend. So there was no point in even scheduling an open house. And so it was such a fast market that it was extremely stressful. And it was stressful for buyers. I actually felt so bad for buyers because they were having to get very creative and offer these crazy, what we call an appraisal gap, meaning that, okay, I'll pay up to X dollars above the appraised value. And, it was essentially a supply and demand, and it was very much a competition. So, for example, I listed one small starter home in West Little Rock, not anything fancy, just a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a very steep driveway. And so at one time that house would have probably sat on the market. We had 19 offers in the first 24 hours, and it sold for $30,000 over asking. And so it was just such a crazy time that it just made it extremely stressful to try to help. Me being the helper that I am, I want everybody to get the best deal, and I want it to be easy. And because it was very stressful, and it was stressful on buyers, it was stressful on me too. And so that, I would say, that part was just extremely hard during that time, and was very different than it would be right like now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was trying to think. I can't remember. I want to say it was like 3 months that I missed that period by. We sold our house and we took a massive loss. Massive loss. And then it was 2 to 3 months, and then that period hit.
Oh,
Angie, we were sick.
I bet.
Sick. And our buyers were so happy.
Oh, I'm sure.
They were so happy.
They gained so much value because I saw property values just skyrocket because you're supply and demand. It's just like in any industry. If the supply is low and demand is high, the price is going up. And
They could have turned around and sold that house for mega.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw people, they had bought a house, like you say, early 2020 or end of 2019, and they sold it a year later, made $100,000 on just in less than a year. And we used to tell people, if you don't live in it at least 3 or 4 years, you're not even going to break even. But during that time, it didn't matter. If you could buy it and sell it a month later and probably make money. It was just such a crazy time.
Yeah. Oh, we were sick. But we had to look at it like it was a stock trade.
Yeah.
That's what we had to, in our minds, we had to just say it was a stock trade. And
sell on a down day. That's
yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, we couldn't have
You
handled
just
it.
make yourself crazy thinking about it.
Yeah.
What could have been.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. So walk me through kind of what your referral system looks like today, if you can paint us a picture.
Well, you mentioned BNI earlier, which for those that might not know, that stands for Business Networking International. And it's a referral-based group that, we pay to be a part of it, and your profession is protected. So, for example, in my chapter, you're in my chapter, so our chapter, there's only one realtor, and so all the people in that group hopefully refer to me, not only themselves, but their friends and family, and that's kind of the idea, is so we become a sales force for one another. And so I got my license in 2014, and in 2016, early 2016, someone was telling me about BNI, and they said back then you actually had an in-person informational meeting that met at a hotel, like in the conference room of a hotel. And so someone invited me to just come check out what BNI is about. So I went to that informational meeting, And I met a guy who happened to be the P&C insurance person in our chapter at the time. And he said, well, why don't you just, next week, why don't you just come with me and just see what it's about? We already have a realtor, and so you can't present your business, but you can just come check it out. And so I said, okay, I can do that. So I went and I met Rose, who is a good friend of yours and a great friend of mine. I met Rose, had lunch with her, and we just kind of connected and hit it off. And so she came up with the idea of, well, maybe you could come in. You can't come as the residential real estate person because we already have that area filled, but maybe you could come in as the commercial person. And so I don't know, I think I just recognized that to be in a room with a group of people that are going to be referring to me, that's just a great opportunity. Why would I turn that down? Now, at the time, our chapter was only about 16 people. We're double that now. Mm-hmm. And, but I came maybe 2 weeks. I don't think I had even joined yet as the commercial person when Rose called me one day and she said, you're not going to believe this, but our residential real estate person is not going to renew. And so she said, do you want the spot? Normally they open it up and they'll have everybody that wants to come. And the realtor spot in pretty much every chapter fills up immediately. And you may have 7, 8 applications for that one position. And so had I had to compete, I'm not sure I would have gotten the spot because I hadn't even been in the business 2 years. Been in about a year and a half. And so if I'd been competing with someone that had been in it a long time, I probably wouldn't have even gotten it. But Rose liked me. She saw, I'm really thankful for her. She saw something in me, a leadership potential. She saw things in me that I didn't even see in myself at the time. And so she just, without even opening up the spot to just anybody, she said, if you want it, you can have it. And so I was like, absolutely, sign me up. So here I came in. I've been doing this about a year and a half. I'm brand new. And just that first year was hard because I didn't get any business off of it. And so I try to tell people I'm one of the mentor coordinator in our chapter. And so when I'm talking to brand new people, I try to set expectations that you may or may not get any business this year. If you do get business, you're very fortunate. Not everybody does. And so I try to tell my story that, my first year I got nothing. And I don't think it wasn't because people didn't like me. I think, real estate's one of those things. If you don't happen to know somebody buying or selling a house, that's not something you necessarily come across every day. And then, so it just didn't happen. And so I almost, at the end of a year, almost gave up. But then Rose invited me to be the secretary treasurer that next year. And so by being on the leadership team, I thought, okay, well, I'll do that. So the next year I was secretary treasurer, and that year I got 2 deals, which more than paid for my renewal. And so from there, it just kind of increased, and I just became more involved in the chapter. And so now it's about 25% of my business every year. And so I've, joked around and told Rose they'll just carry me out in a coffin one day. And it's just such a great opportunity. And it's really it's not just the referral business, which is wonderful. It's also the relationships. I now consider when I go on Tuesday mornings, it's like seeing a group of friends. Mm-hmm. And I love these people, and they help me. Our HVAC guy met me at a house yesterday, and I called him and he came 2 hours later, and that kind of thing. And that wouldn't happen if I didn't have that relationship. You can't just call up some random HVAC guy and he's going to drop everything he's doing and come help you. And so the relationships are huge. And the relationship is the basis of the referral. And so it's just kind of part of that building the relationship because that saying about people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. It's like you build the relationship first, and then the referral is just a result of that.
I heard someone say one time, it was an influencer, and they talk about things like this. It's turning strangers into friends and friends into family.
Oh, yeah.
When you get into rooms like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because of the referral system.
Yeah.
And I know you've said to me before that you've built relationships through BNI with people that are no longer in BNI that you still are connected to and send referrals to.
Oh, absolutely. We had an electrician in our group who ended up having to leave our group. And I think I've sent him 3 referrals in the last month.
Gives me chills. It's just, I mean, I believe I've told you this before, but before I joined BNI, I had multiple people to ask me to go visit their group. And I had this very, I'm going to admit it, I hate to admit it, but I had this very negative mindset about joining a BNI because, and money was connected to that. And it was, why would I pay a chapter fee to
Yeah.
get referrals? That just, I couldn't comprehend that. It didn't make sense to me. And I was like, people should give me a referral at no cost because I've been getting referrals for my business, for years now. And
Yep.
I've never had to pay for a referral to grow my business. And so the concept of that, I just, like I say, it didn't make sense to me. But then there was a day where I let somebody convince me to give it a try. And Angie, I have to say, it's changed my mindset, number one, for the good. And number two, like you say, they're going to have to carry me out on my deathbed because I can't imagine not being involved, number one, with such a great group of people. And number two, the quality of the referrals that you get from being in a BNI are, I'm not saying they're necessarily any better than the ones I've gotten in the past, but they're great quality leads and they're very warm, if not hot leads
Yes.
that you get from being in BNI. And they're worth, I'll call it this, paying for.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way. And so now when people say to me, pretty much the same thing, that have that poor mindset that I had of, I can't imagine paying for leads, or I can't imagine paying to network. I'm like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Let me clear this up for you because I have that same mindset. It is not what you think. You are in a powerful room of great business owners, number one, and the quality of the leads that you get are like no other.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I'm number one embarrassed that I had that mindset, but number two, I'm so thankful that I gave it a try, and to be connected with people like you. I'm so thankful.
Yeah. Well, you didn't know what you didn't know. That's the thing. And so many people, like you said, you have an assumption that you make. But I've known literally some chapters that folded because of the money piece and decided, oh, we're just going to meet, we're not going to charge, we're just going, the same people are going to get, and it just, for whatever reason, it doesn't last. It's almost like the money, because you have an investment, you have skin in the game, so to speak, it makes you take it more seriously, and it has the accountability piece where we track our numbers. I have to put in my referrals. I have to put in that I've had a one-to-one with somebody and those sort of things. And so when there's no accountability and no money, it's like, well, if I'm absent today, who cares? It doesn't matter. Nobody's keeping track. I don't lose anything because I didn't pay for it. And so it's kind of like the money sort of helps with the accountability and just makes you've got something invested. And so therefore you take it more seriously.
Yes, and I love that. And so that takes me on into the next thing is, what do you do on purpose to generate referrals consistently? Is that all part of it? Is it that accountability and all of that helps you do it consistently or do it on purpose? Talk about that a little bit.
I would say, and the point of this is not necessarily promoting B&I.
No,
but because it is such a huge piece of my business, it's hard for me to even talk about referrals without referring to that. So specifically with B&I try to be very intentional with my calendar. And so it's like we have what are called one-to-ones for those that might not know. And it's basically sort of like what you and I are doing now, but typically you'd get together in person. And that's where the basis of the relationship starts and grows from there. And the more you know someone and we ask questions about each other's business, it makes it easier to listen for a referral. It's sort of, if you've ever heard talk about your reticular activator in your brain, it's the piece that makes us, if we bought a red car, we're going to notice red cars everywhere because they were always there. We just didn't notice them. And so it's the same thing. It's like if I've just met with the HVAC guy and then later that day someone happens to mention, man, my HVAC's not working, then I'm immediately going to think of him because I've just spent time with him. And so those sort of things I just think happen. And so weekly meeting and hearing about people's businesses, they just stay top of mind. And we all stay top of mind for each other. And so we become a sales force for each other. I couldn't afford to go out and hire 30-something people to promote my business. And so I pay this small, which, in light of that, it's really a small amount per year. And I have a sales force of 30-something people that if they hear someone talking about real estate, that hopefully they're going to recommend me. So, that works. So I would say B&I for me is a huge piece. I wish I could say I was as intentional with my past clients. I do, try to, if there are people that I'm connected to on social media, so I try to wish them happy birthday and those kind of things. I'm not always as good as I need to be. That's actually one of the things, hopefully, you're helping me with my business. Hopefully that's going to be some things, because I want to be more intentional with my past clients and reaching out to them. I did do a little thing for Mother's Day, just put some little bath bombs in a little thing and it said, Mom, you're the bomb, and I drove around and delivered those in person to some of my past clients that I know are moms. And so it's just a little pop-by that just to drop off at their house. I did not stay and bother anybody. In fact, in most cases, either if they weren't home, even if they were home, I didn't ring the doorbell. I would just send a text and said, hey, I'm going to stop by. I'm dropping off something at your door. Hope you're doing great. I won't bother you, blah, blah, blah. And I got so many women that I dropped those off to who sent me texts, oh, you're the best ever, love you, it's just thank you so much. And so it's just little things. So it's like, I really want to do more of that. That's kind of part of my future plans of being more intentional. But like everybody else, we all get busy and we intend to do things and then we just don't always get around to it. But that's part of, I just think it's recognizing people love to be noticed. They love that if you can show that you care. And so that's kind of the things that I think are important in those relationships.
Yeah, well, the thing that does too is when you did that or do that, and it helps them to think over the next few days, or even if they just heard or they know somebody that's going to buy or sell or whatever, and they haven't thought of you in a while, and that just happens, they're like, oh, I need to let Angie know that so-and-so is going to buy or sell, or they let that person know that they love Angie as an agent, and, they need to let that person know about you. So there's so many ways that what you did with the bath bomb pays dividends, even though it was such a small thing in your mind that you did. It's really a big thing to them and could pay very large dividends.
I went through a training a few years ago. This was not through my company. There's an organization called Ninja Selling. There's actually a book out. And to me, when I've had brand new agents ask me what's one book you would recommend, I always recommend that book, Ninja Selling, because it's all about relationships. It's the whole thing is about building a business on relationships and referrals. And so I went to the training, and one of the things they said, they just encourage you to write 2 personal notes a day, just like a little postcard or a little, just a little note card size, and just do 2 a day. And that sounds like such a small thing. It only takes a few minutes. But when someone receives a handwritten note in the mail, because it's so unusual now in our, this day and time, it stands out that, oh my goodness, they took the time to write me a note. And so that is something I have done some. I haven't been doing it recently like I need to. I'd love to get back to that because it was just a simple thing. I mean, that's 10 people a week over the course of 5 days. And so then 40 a month. And so if you were reaching out to 40 people a month, you're going to get business off of that. I mean, and that really not just about real estate. That's any business.
Any business.
If you're sending, and it doesn't have to necessarily be past clients. It can be past clients. It can just be friends. It can be people you've met somewhere, acquaintances, and maybe people you've met in other networking situations. Just drop them a note, and that's going to stand out. It's going to make you stand out because just so few people do things like that today.
One of the things that I try to do is people that I've met, and my audience knows I talk about the power connectors because I have the networking opportunities that I do in person and globally through virtual opportunities for business owners to connect. And oftentimes, if I know that one of them have something going, whether it's an event or whether they're looking for a staff member or they're looking for a speaking opportunity or whatever, I will oftentimes, depending upon the situation, I have some specific rules, but I will put that on my social media because my social media does have a reach. And so I will put that out there on my social media for them. And I have had people get opportunities based upon things that I've done for them on social media. And so, like you say, it's just the small thing that you can do for other people to help them. And sometimes they can get leads off of that. And so, again, it's just the small things that we do for other people.
Well, that's like the in B&I, referring back to that again, the motto of B&I is givers gain. And so for those that might not know what that is, it's just as you give to other people, if I'm constantly giving this person a referral, that at some point they're going to be like, man, I've got to find her a referral in return because she just keeps supporting my business. And so it's just that mindset of if you truly focus on giving and not what is in it for me, that will just come back around and, be to your benefit. So it's just, it really is about giving to others and then it will come back to you.
Yeah, 100%. So is there a way other than being in the room with the people week upon week, is there a way that you try to stay top of mind for people without being annoying? Or is it just always giving like you do because you are a giver? But are there other ways that you try to stay top of mind?
Well, like I said, I've got a lot more things I want to do that I'm not doing. Obviously, social media is an opportunity to kind of stay in front of people. So if you can, if you have a client or you have whatever, if you can try to make sure you're friends with them on social media and just pay attention, like paying attention to, oh, so-and-so got a promotion or they had a baby or they got married or whatever, and just being willing to reach out. So I do try to reach out. I have subscribed to another girl in our group that does what's called send out cards. And so I'm not as good about doing the automated stuff with send out cards. I probably need to do some more of that. But one thing that I've enjoyed about send out cards is, for example, one of my past clients, their child won, I don't know, a big trophy like a state championship or something. And so you can actually download the picture. So I saw the photo on Facebook, I downloaded it onto a card, and I just sent the card with that photo on the front and said, congratulations on their, win, blah, 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 blah. Just a real quick little thing. And she just texted me and I just love that. I'm gonna put that on my refrigerator and, and that kind of thing. And I've actually gotten some of those from the girl in our group that does send out cards. She has sent me some. And over different things where it'll actually be a photo. And I just love those. I just think that's a great way. So just paying attention to what's going on in other people's lives and noticing, there's a movie, I don't know if you've seen the movie called Shall We Dance. It has Richard Gere and Susan Sarandon, I think. Oh my gosh, it's an old movie, but it's such a good movie. But there's a line in there where I think they're talking about marriage, specifically about marriage. And so she's saying kind of the purpose is we all want someone to notice us. And we want somebody that's going to be there and that's going to care and just notice. And so I think there's even a book called The Noticer. That's a great book if you've ever looking for just a good little book. And it, in some ways, it would refer to networking too, but it's called The Noticer. And it really is about just paying attention to the people around you and noticing the things about them. And that makes people feel special. And they are special. And so it's just, you know, we all have our unique gifts and what we bring to the table. And if you just pay attention, I feel like so many people are so wrapped up in themselves and seeking attention to be noticed rather than noticing others. But if you just notice others, that sets you apart because so few people do that.
I agree. Going back to the send out cards, I have 4 people that consistently send me cards. 3 of them send the actual cards, and then one of the other ones send me the electronic cards. And I love them all, but I love the card, the physical card.
Yep.
Love those. And I have just right down here underneath my desk the physical cards.
Yep.
Down here. I keep them. I keep them all.
Yeah. Well, it makes you feel special because someone took the time to do that for you. And it just, too many people they feel the world is so fast paced, we just feel overlooked. And so it feels so good that somebody took the time to do that for me. It just makes you feel special.
Yes. I get them out occasionally and look through them and read them because sometimes you just need that uplift. To read them. So there are business owners, CEOs, whatever we want to call them, realtors, whomever, that sometimes feel awkward just asking for a referral. What is a way, and maybe you even felt awkward at one point in time, but is there a way that somebody could just genuinely ask for a referral that's not like, hey, do you mind to give me a referral? Is there a way that you've done it in the past that could make someone else ask and feel comfortable doing it?
Well, like I said earlier, I don't really consider myself a true salesperson. I know there are people that they're hard closers. They're going to be, if you're sitting in their presence, you are not going to get away without being asked for, that kind of thing. I'm not very good at that. I'm probably not the person to always ask this question to. But because I do find that awkward because I don't really consider myself a salesperson. I consider myself a helper. And when I see that you have a need, I want to help you. But I sort of frame it the same way as I build the relationship and talk about them. It's easier for me to frame it as, hey, who do you know that I can help?
I love that.
That's really more just the way my mind works. Some people are very goal oriented, and in my office sometimes they would make us write out our goals. I would write those numbers on a piece of paper and then stick it in a drawer and not look at it again. I'm just not wired that way. I'm more relational, I guess. And so it's easier for me to think, okay, how many people can I help this week? If I frame it that way, then I can do that. But if I have to say, well, I have a goal of having 3 sales appointments, that just does not motivate me at all. And it's probably the same thing, actually, but it's the mindset. My mindset is huge. I've just learned as I get older, just mindset's the key to everything. It's the key to our happiness. It's the key to our relationships. It's the key to our marriage. It's the key to, business. Is a lot of times the way you frame something just makes such a huge difference. And so if I frame it in my mind of, okay, my goal is to help 3 people this week, that's easier than saying my goal is to have 3 listing appointments this week, or my goal is to show 10 houses this week. That just doesn't motivate me at all.
Yeah, so I was going to say I'm very goal-oriented, but my goal is how many people can I help solve their problems this week or this month or today or whatever. But it's more about helping people solve their problems. It's not, can I make 10,000 this month? Can I make 1,000 this month? It's all tied to how many people's lives can I impact this month or this week. It's, for me, obviously we all love money. Money is a real thing.
Yeah, well, that's the world. That's just the world we live in.
Yes, but if somebody said, Tonya, I can't pay you for this, but I need your help, I would say that's not important to me. How can I help you? You
Oh,
know,
yeah. I'm going to look up something while we're talking because there's something you said. There's a book. You need to read it. I think it's called Stop Setting Goals, Start Solving Problems is the name of it.
if there's one out there for that, I would love to read it because I love to
And it's
read.
that exact concept. And it's really what I was saying too is about I'm just not motivated. The numbers are not what motivates me. It's the people in helping. Let's say I'm just
It
looking it
is
up.
for a long time, and I had to have a coach help me with this because for a long time, I was like helping people without charging them. And
Yeah.
they were like, you have got to stop or you're never going to make money in your business.
Yeah,
You're
and
never
here it
going
is.
to.
It's called Stop Setting Goals If You Would Rather Solve Problems. That's the name of the book, and it's by Bob, B-O-B-B, Biel, B-I-E-H-L. So it's Stop Setting Goals If You Would Rather Solve Problems, Bob Biel. And it talks about how the premise of the book is I don't know if he was doing surveys or whatever, and he realized that, so many businesses, so many corporations, everything is about setting goals of, oh, okay, I've got to set goals for my employees and they've got to meet these goals. And as he began to ask questions and do this research, he found that only about 50% of people are motivated by setting goals. And so he began to kind of dig into, okay, well, what are the other 50% motivated by? And that's where this came from. It's, okay, they're motivated by solving problems because they're helpers. That's their nature. And so that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's why
me.
I can write numbers down on a piece of paper and just look at that and stick it in a drawer. But
Yeah.
if you put me on this person needs your help, I'm all over that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where mine all started was this, he called it, instead of calling it goals, but he did ask me, do you know how to set goals? And I said, yes, but he called it commitment card. Mm-hmm. These were your commitments to reach where you wanted to be. Mm-hmm. But when he had the conversation with me, it was goals. Mm-hmm. And, so when I think of, referrals and goals and all of the things, it's the way to get to where you want to be is solving problems for people. And I associate that with, which is one of my core values, is impact. Mm-hmm. If I don't impact people, I won't get what I want.
Exactly.
My end goal is impact. And so, and I have a number of people that I want to impact. That's 5,000 people, within the next 3 years. It's 5,000 people I want to impact. And so, and that's more, it's a number of people than it is a financial goal.
Right.
It's people.
Right. Yeah.
And so,
Because the finances will follow. If you're doing the right
finances will
things,
follow.
the money will follow. If you're doing the right activity and helping others and doing the things, the money will come.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, and so that's kind of how I reframe all of that too. It's not, and I even asked you, I said something to you yesterday or the day before, I can't remember which day, it may have been yesterday, about, a Google review. And I said, sometime in the near future, I might be asking you, for a Google review. And I didn't come out and say, will you give me a Google review? I said, I might be asking you for a Google review. And you were like, oh, certainly, I'll do this today.
Yep.
And
I did.
Yeah, and you did. But yeah, I think just asking people for a referral, it's, who do you know?
Yep.
Who do you know that needs my help? Or who do you know that might be thinking about selling a home or buying a home in the near future?
And a lot of times, at the end of like in my case, at the end of a transaction, when somebody's, thanking me, oh, thank you for what you did, blah, 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 blah. That's a great time to say, I'm so happy that you love the service that I gave you. Do you know of anybody else that might need my services? Anybody else I can help? And so, like I said before, I'm not a hard closer. I'm not a hard sales kind of person where it's got to feel natural and just authentic to the relationship. And so if it doesn't feel like it was a good transaction for whatever reason, sometimes most of the time, it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's just maybe it was a difficult inspection or, those kind of things. then I don't always say that because I'm like, I'm not going to make them feel like, oh, I want something from you. You've just come through something hard. I'm not gonna push for, okay, well,
Yeah.
here, I want something for me. And so I just won't say anything at all in that situation. So that, I don't know if that's right or wrong. But it feels right for me, the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think sometimes in the midst of a situation, you know, if they enjoyed it so much, I think they'll recommend. You
Yeah.
know, when the time is right, they'll recommend.
Oh, those are my favorites. I know. So it's probably been about 5 or 6 years ago. There was a girl that, actually, her name's Angie also. She came to town from New Jersey, and she had set up online to meet with an agent when she got here. She flew into town. Well, for whatever reason, and I never really understood how this happened, but her agent ended up standing her up. And so she's just driving around. She had found some houses online. She's just driving around, and she comes up on one that just happened to be my listing. The seller was in the yard, and she rolled down the window and just said, "Hey, I noticed your house." And he said, "Well, actually, my house is under contract already." And she said, "Well, do you know a good realtor? Because I'm going to need somebody. I'm here for the weekend, and my agent's not worked out." And so he said, "Well, we love our agent." And so, of course, he's pointing to my sign in the yard. There's her number. And so she pulled up she said she immediately Googled me, saw I had all 5-star reviews, and she called me and she said, "Well, your name's Angie. You can't be all bad," because her name was Angie. And we actually have the same middle name too. That's what was funny. I'm Angela Marie. She was Angela Marie. And so anyway, I ended up selling her a house, and then her sister decided to move here from New Jersey, and I sold her a house. And then her aunt and uncle decided to move from New Jersey. I sold them a house, and that's all. That one has been in the last year. And so it's just been so fun that literally a referral from my seller to this lady that he did not know turned into her and her sister and her aunt and uncle. And so it's just, those are the ones that I just love, because it's like, and I didn't ask for any of those referrals. They just came out of the first one was just a coincidence. I mean, that was just a God thing. I don't know. The fact that she happened to stop at that house, it was my listing. I can't take any credit for that. But then the other ones were born out of, I worked hard on the first one, and it led to the others.
Wow. Wow. So is there any piece of business that you got since you started that you would say absolutely, hands down, changed the entire trajectory of your business? Whether it was a referral or just a piece of business that was like,
Well, there's
this
one,
set everything up for
there's
me.
one in particular so one of the people in our BNI group, Charlotte, who is the P&C insurance person in our group, I listed her home, I think it was in 2020, kind of right after COVID had sort of hit. And I sold her home, and 4 doors down, a man saw my sign, saw how quickly her house sold, and he called me and he said, "My house has been on the market for over a year and it's not sold, and I saw how quickly you sold hers. I just want to see if you could sell mine." So I ended up selling his, and now here again, I was just very fortunate at the timing. That's when the market was cranking up, and so his house sold very quickly. He bought a really nice home in Falstone in West Little Rock, very expensive home. And since then, he has bought 5 other homes, all rental I mean, they're rentals, but he buys nicer, a little more expensive rentals. And recently he called me wanting some information about possibly a commercial deal. So I referred him to our commercial agent in our office. And if they end up working something out, then I would get a referral fee off of that, about a 25% referral fee. And so just that one act of selling Charlotte's home has led to meeting this one person, and he's just a wonderful guy. And so and he has referred me to other people. And so it's just crazy how one piece of business can just multiply into all these, other pieces of business that you just didn't count on. And so I would say that's one that kind of stands out, because it would just,
Wow.
it's just like it keeps going. And so every once in a while I have to call Charlotte and I'll say, "You need to put in a referral for so-and-so because, he sent me another deal." And she's just like, "Wow." And so that's just one that really stands out for me.
Wow, that is so wonderful. That is so wonderful. So I think the last question here as we wrap up. This has been so phenomenal, by the way. This has been one of my favorite podcasts. No offense to anybody else, but this, which I could talk referrals all day long.
Yes.
I mean, I absolutely love referrals because, like I say, this is just my jam. But what is one thing that you wish that somebody would have told you earlier about very early on? About building a business through referrals before you started, before you ever even got into BNI? Is there anything that you would tell the audience that doesn't build through referrals that should?
Well, fortunately, I do feel like I got some of this advice early on of just kind of hanging in there in the beginning, because the beginning of anything is hard. I mean, you're not just going to immediately be an expert when you start something new. So if you're starting a company and you're a brand new CEO, whatever, it just is going to take time. And so allowing yourself the time to learn and to get going, but just don't neglect the relationship piece. I mean, that is just huge. And so I'm very thankful that early on I did find some people that made it clear if I didn't have to do it because I'm telling you at that time, now I would say in my office, there is a whole lot more on relationships. But early on, it was all about cold calling. In fact, I've teased the person that's my principal broker now, Carrie Ellison. She's very direct and can be scary if you don't know her. She's a wonderful person, but she was doing a boot camp. I promise you, I probably had not been there 2 weeks. She was doing a boot camp, and I didn't even know what that was. It was just like, oh, if you want to get business, come to this boot camp. And she closed the door and she said, okay, get out your phone. Okay, you're about to start making calls. And of course, my eyes are just getting like, what? I'm like, what am I going to say? I've been doing this like 2 weeks. And she was like, nobody's leaving this room. Everybody's going to be calling and this is whatever. And probably about an hour later, so I'm trying to call a few people. I'm scared to death. I don't even know what I'm saying. And she did go over some of that. I don't want to make it sound like she didn't do anything. She was trying to explain, if you want to call a friend, want to call family, because most of us in there were new. And she said, you're just basically calling to tell people you're in the business now. You can't be a secret agent. But girl, she let us go have a bathroom break. Guess who ran and got my keys and left? I was over there so fast. I'm like, I can't do this. This is awful. And I think that was just a huge epiphany for me, is that, okay, this is what is ever, if I've got to do this, I'm not going to make it because I'm not wired this way. And so but the first bathroom break, I was out of there and I did not go back. It was supposed to be like all week and I never went back. I just was like, I'm not doing that.
You're like, boot camping is not for me.
And so since then, I've told her that story and we've laughed about it because I was like, I was too scared to come tell you. I just got my keys and slipped out. I was gone.
I would love to have been a mouse in the room, or in her mind thinking, where is Angie?
Where'd she go?
I love that. Sales is scary
when
you first start. It is very scary not knowing what to say.
Yep.
Hearing no a gazillion times. I mean, I've gotten used to it, but I don't like to cold call. We don't cold call in my business either.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sent some messages to people that, that I don't know, but it's not comfortable.
Right. And probably, to give credit for all the people that do it. Because, there are people that don't. My son, Jacob, who's also an agent, he loves to cold call. It does not bother him one bit. And so some people are wired that way. And so if it works for you, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It just has to be, I would say that's my biggest piece of advice, is find what fits you and your personality and what you will enjoy enough to want to do it every day. I told somebody early on, I was like, if I have to cold call, I'd rather you just sit here and pluck my fingernails out. I just can't do that. And so that to me, and I probably would have gotten better at it, but I don't think I ever would have loved it. That's just because that's just not the way I'm wired. But relationships, I love that. I love talking to people and getting to know people and just building a relationship. So if I can build my business, regardless of what the business is, if I can build it on relationships, I can do that. And I will want to do it every day. I get up every day. I love what I do. And so I don't dread going to work. And I think if I had to get up and go hammer the phones all day, I would just dread going every day. But I have a little girl that sits near me at my desk, and she's on the phones every day, and she loves it. She just loves it. She's just wired differently than me, and that's okay. We can both be successful. We just have to find what works for, each
Yeah.
of us individually.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, there's nothing like getting, a warm or a hot lead passed over, a referral passed over to you,
Yep.
that's easy to close. And I don't mind passing them right back over to somebody. I'll network all day long, every week, as much as it takes, and talk, and talk great about people, and then pass those over. Do
Yep.
it all day long. But yeah, people say, I don't have time to do that. How do you find time to do it? And I'm like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I pass the other work that I don't like to do off to somebody else.
Well, that's actually a good piece of advice to people is the things that you don't enjoy, find a way to delegate that to someone else who's wired to do that. And,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
whole business will be more successful, your company or whatever. If you find people, plug them into the spots where they thrive, then you won't have to stay on top of people to work because they'll love what they do. And so I just think that's so
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. Well, Angie, it has been a pleasure to have you on today. And hopefully the audience has gotten some value from this. And if you have gotten some value from this, please put it in the comments today. And if you're not already a subscriber, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications so that you'll get a notification when a podcast is gone live. And we appreciate you being here. Thank you for being a trusted listener. And until next week, have a wonderful week. And until then, I want you to continue to build trust and make connections count, and always fear forward. Do something that you're not used to doing so that you can fear forward always. Thank you.